Lola Adeyemo from EQImindset. She's a fellow diversity, equity, and inclusion practitioner, and we're going to talk about employee resources today. So thank you so much for joining me to share your expertise with our audience, Lola.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here, and I love talking about ERGs. So
love it. Yeah, I would say ERGs, or used to be like BRGs, business resource groups. And I always forget to like spell it out, because if you're not in the DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion space, it's like ER what's, and so I always try to spell out all the acronyms for audience out there. But you and I got connected through a mutual connection that you had when you were doing internal DEI work at ThermoFisher, right?
Yes, that's it.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about your DEI journey, Lola, because now you're a fellow entrepreneur like myself, and I know that's not where you necessarily started. So tell us about how you got to where you're at.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. I don't know how I got here, but I think I got here the way a lot of DEI practitioners got here. It's really passion driven. It's not an intentional step. It's one of those steps that when it's time to make it, you just know it. I am a scientist by training. So I've always worked within the biotech and life science industry. I've worked within operations. I've worked within procurement, project management primarily on integration projects, IT type projects. But one common theme for me has always been employee engagement. I'm always interested in getting involved in supporting initiatives within the organization and connecting with other people outside of my workspace. So that's how I got involved with employee resource groups. And employee resource groups pretty much spurred my career into DEI. My participation, my engagement, leadership of employee resource groups. And then I had the opportunity to officially join the Global Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion team.
That's amazing. So you started as an ERG participant at ThermoFisher, and then that led to ERG leadership, which then eventually led to you taking a full-time role at the company doing solely DEI work.
Yes, exactly.
That's amazing. It's amazing. And then how did you transition from doing that internal work into the role you're at now? And I think this is such a great way to start DEI, just in my own opinion, because I know I started from an external consulting position, working for consulting firms, and then essentially just started doing more of that, but on my own, under my own name. And I feel like those internal DEI people are such invaluable partners to continue on with this work, well after the consultant, the external person's gone. And so to have both perspectives, I think is just a huge value add that you probably bring to your clients.
Yeah, and that's what I leverage as my value proposition, especially when I'm talking about ERGs, employee resource groups, again, ERG, BRG, ERN. Some companies call them employee resource networks.
Okay.
But basically, whatever the name it is, a very great resource for employees to get connected. And when I'm doing my inclusion work, when I'm working with companies, I'm bringing that perspective that there is a gap between the bottoms up needs and drives and what leadership is setting as a strategy. And I think a lot of times external and leadership does not align with what does your employee really want. Yeah. So for me, I always try to be that voice in the room to say who should be in the room as part of this conversation. What are we missing? Because we're only having leadership represented. Because we already know there's not enough diversity at the leadership level. And so when the people trying to make the decisions are missing out on the perspective, there's already kind of a skewed decision process, right? So when it comes to ERGs, it's always important to get perspectives from the ground up. And it's always important to also equip your people managers. So your middle managers, everybody needs to be part of the inclusion journey for it to work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I often say middle management is where DEI goes to die. We need the buy-in from the top. That's how anything's going to get started. And exactly what you're saying, the voices from the bottom, I feel like that is a lot of DEI work, is like getting power in those voices and getting those voices together. Yes. But then here's where it just like
and everything just like.
So what do you then do, or what do you recommend to help overcome that middle management issue? Like, is it just communicating, or is it, you know, kind of strategically putting them more in the strategy?
I think communication is part of it. But that's also why I advocate for employee resource groups first, but also for consultants. So I know a lot of companies try to do everything in-house, but for example, if we're talking about ERGs, this is a passion to the employees. These are engaged individuals who are going above and beyond their day job to do something that benefits the company and ultimately benefits them. You know, we hope they don't get burnt out, that they drop it. But when we talk about the value that being part of an ERG is, we need help. And sometimes we shy away from using consultants. It's part of why I do ERG consulting. It's part of why I do DEI consulting. There are certain things that we need the people that are focused on that to come in and help us with. Not because we don't have the skill set, but ERG is not your DEI, right?
Yes.
ERG members should be supporting your DEI strategy. So there are companies that have ERGs, but they don't have a DEI team.
Yeah.
And then you end up piling everything on people that you're not equipping to do the work.
Yeah.
And then your middle managers have a goal that is strictly tied to your business goals, right? So there's a disconnect.
Yeah.
And middle managers end up spending time just trying to meet the daily deliverables and daily goals and seeing things that have to do with your employee belonging as a distraction to the day job. We have to get to where, you know, employee resource group, inclusion, diversity, belonging, everything is a part of the day-to-day experience of the employee. It should be part of our business strategy. It should be embedded and measured within our daily deliverables. It shouldn't be separate. And that's why when I'm working and speaking with business leaders and people managers. How can inclusion be an actionable step for me with my team?
Yeah. And something I really loved in our previous conversation, Lola, about your approach to DEI, it's very similar to our approach over here, which is really taking a very data-centric approach to all this work, right? Like using the data to not only bring people along, but make data-driven decisions. And when it comes specific to ERGs, like what type of data do you recommend companies collecting to see, you know, if the ERGs are having impact, or you know, having like any sort of ERG data?
Yeah, I mean, ERG data, ERG data is multiple parts, right? If you don't have an ERG and you want to start an ERG, first you should be starting with your data. Why do you think the ERGs can help? Right now, what is your biggest challenge? What does your demographic data look like as a company? You know, compared with the industry or the location, geographic location where you are, what does your demographic data look like? What ERG can add the most value for our employees as well as clients and customers, right? So starting everything with data gives you a very great baseline to measure and to select what ERG you need.
Yeah.
And then if you align your ERG goals to the need that you identified from the start, then it makes it easy to measure your results over time. You can tie it to your recruitment because that was an area where you saw a gap, right? And then you can focus on how many organizations are we partnering with that could fill the needs that we have identified in our talent pipeline. And so that by itself can already be a measure to say we partnered with this organization, we partnered with these organizations. And then in terms of partnering with them, what impact have we seen in our hiring numbers, our applicant numbers from these demographic groups because of these partnerships that we didn't have before because we didn't have that knowledge, right?
Oh, I love that. And starting I love how you also pointed out, like, there's a lot of external factors to be looking at and leveraging, like whether it's the partnership, the community work that ERGs do, looking at, as you said, the local demographics, what are the gaps, and also clients. I feel like one of our best examples of, that I like to use here in the Pittsburgh area is PNC Bank. They've really embedded DEI into like their customer strategy, right? And how do we understand our customers better and better meet their needs, and making sure we have the representation internally and help, solve problems specific to certain communities externally, and they're benefiting financially because of it, and I feel like we always make this case like, oh, it's good for the bottom line, but more stories like these actually connect those dots and say, look, DEI and ERG specifically, specific groups, more markets in those demographics, right? Like that's the ROI equation. And so you can't do that without collecting that data. So I love that.
Yeah.
Lola, what all do you have going on with ERGs right now? I know you mentioned you're building a community. I know you do this in your work with clients. But can you share a little bit more about that community piece too, for those interested in, just learning more how to run ERGs better?
Yeah, so when it comes to ERG support, one of the other things I also noticed, again, the programs, the events, is very focused on business leaders, because we're trying to get the buy-in from leaders, which is critical. To start an ERG, to be successful as an ERG, you need leadership buy-in. But one of the other gaps that I identified was the need to support the ERG members. ERG work is hard. ERG work is very passion driven, but is also very draining. It does not have to be a lonely journey. So one of the things we do is start this group on LinkedIn called Community of Employee Resource Group. And I started this group a couple of months ago, earlier in the year, because we are getting a lot of people trying to find the resources, trying to connect with other ERG members. The goal is to provide a safe space for ERG members across companies to connect. I call it ERGs for ERG. But the idea is, if you are part of an ERG, if you are leading an ERG, if you are participating in an ERG, here is a place to connect with other employees who are working with other companies but are running ERGs, and ask your questions, learn best practices, or get inspired by something another ERG is doing. Oh yeah, we haven't tried that. Or we had this issue. So sometimes we'll spotlight an ERG. If you're thinking about how to get an ERG started at your company, and you have no clue, like, how do I even get started? You talk to people that have been in the same shoes, and they want to just share their materials, share their tips. People connect offline outside of these calls, and they even collaborate on programs, right? Here is what we're struggling with, here is what we want to try and do, and I'm interested, let's talk. So the idea is connecting ERG members and leaders with each other across different companies and different industries.
I love that. If I did it right, you can see the title of the group and also the group link onto that. And we'll also add this to the comments as soon as the video is posted, so you can easily access that and join that group. And it sounds like an amazing community. Especially, I know just a lot of the work that we do with our clients and ERGs. It's always just learning, like, hey, what's working in other companies? Like, what are some other companies, especially those who are a little further along in their DEI journey?
Exactly. Yeah.
So to have that shared knowledge and collective wisdom, I think is really powerful. I think it's really
powerful. And the space. So it's not just a LinkedIn group. Again, the idea is we want real-time connection. So we do have a call every month, every first Friday of the month, make it consistent so people can remember. First Friday of the month, 10 a.m. PST, we're going live on Zoom, not live on LinkedIn.
So for them to get involved in that call, do they have to join the group first and they get that link?
No, they're completely independent. Joining the group is a way to connect with other people interested in the same things you are interested in. And as a part of the group, you can reach out to other members. But the call itself, as long as you register, you get the registration link. These are events through the EQImindset page or on LinkedIn events. You can find them as well.
Awesome. And so I did want to put that on the screen as well. So EQImindset, Lola, tell us a little bit about your company and what you have going on right now.
Yeah, so EQImindset, a lot of people assume it's from EQI. What is the word that starts with EQI? EQ.
EQ, emotional intelligence is how I usually
emotional intelligence, but that's not really what it is. I didn't realize that until after the name kind of stuck. But EQI is actually from equity and inclusion. These are two words that are very important to me. I really specifically took out the diversity from the name because for me, the diversity is a fact. We already know about diversity. I think what we need is more focus on building equitable systems and inclusive environments for employees in corporate workplaces. So EQImindset, we do that through consulting, speaking engagements as well, going into spaces where business leaders are gathered to spread the message around actionable tips for inclusive environment and bringing in expert advisory services for ERGs, for existing DEI programs in order to support the initiatives that are being developed, the programs that are being rolled out.
Love it. I love it. So be sure to connect with Lola, learn more about EQImindset, join the monthly Zoom call if you are running ERGs, want to learn more about running ERGs, but check her out at EQImindset.com. Lola, I love everything you have going on. I'm grateful to have you in my network. You know I'm going to be hitting you up as we continue doing more and more ERG works over here. I need to join that Friday group, I think.
Yes, thank you. No, I would love to. I mean, ERGs, again, it's my passion, and I love the people that are doing ERG work. And I really feel like these are your best employees. I'm kind of biased, but that's what I think. And, you know, it shouldn't be a lonely journey. It shouldn't be a frustrating journey. If you're doing ERG work, it's because you want to help make a difference for others. It's not just for yourself. Absolutely. And so don't drain yourself in the process. Enjoy it, love it, developing it, growing it, and as an ERG member and leader, and benefit your organization as well.
Oh, I love it. Yes, those doing this work really do care about improving the human experience at work. And thank you so much for joining us today, Lola, and everything that you do to help us all be better humans at work. Definitely reach out to Lola. And thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate you.
Thank you for what you do too, and bringing attention to the human aspect of corporate workplaces.
Yeah, as long as there's people around, we need to care about this stuff. So, all right, Lola, thank you again.
Bye.